Hi guys, welcome to Learning Electronics Repair. I have another thermal camera to review. This one is from Kaiweets. The first thing I will say, this comes in a really large box. Okay. And this has a feature on it which I haven't seen on other thermal cameras. Okay, on one built into a phone. So it has something a little different, and I thought it was a good idea to have a look at this one. And what makes this one a little bit different is the fact it has a visible light camera as well as an infrared camera. So this can superimpose one image on the other. Not many of the thermal cameras I've looked at have that facility, so definitely I thought this was worth a look. This also has a protective cover built onto it as well, so this thing I believe is really ideal for field use on site. Let's have a look to see what's in the box. Well, it opens very nicely. Okay, well packaged. You can see there. This is the, yep, this has a charger and a lead. Okay. And the thermal cameras down there. So we have here, is this the documentation? Yep, one user manual we have. And here is the thermal camera in a nice carry case. The charging cable is the ubiquitous USB-C. Just a USB-A on the charger, so not a PD charger, this will just be a single voltage. Yeah, a standard 5 volt 2 amp charger. And the thermal camera itself. Nicely padded in here, that's a nice holder. This, as I mentioned originally, is clearly intended for field use, although I'm sure it will work on the bench as well. Little screen protector on there, we can take that off. Has a little compartment in here, by the way, I noticed, so this will be for holding the charger, the cable, the user manual. It's quite nice. And the thermal camera. Let's just see if this has any charge in it from new, or do we need to charge this before we can use it? Yeah, it has some charging. Booting up. All thermal cameras take a little while to boot up. This one I think is a little bit slower than a lot of them. Okay, and it's on. Now I have the cover, so we can lift the cover. There, that folds back and it stays back, so it's not going to flap around. Okay, so straight away the basic test. Get the hand on the bench, and it leaves a nice handprint. So the thermal camera passes the initial test. Okay. I'm just taking a quick look at the user manual. It is a multi-language one. A few notable things. It does mention that the thermal camera is not waterproof. Okay, don't use it in the rain, etc. So just mention that, considering this is meant for on-site use, particularly, I would think, although that's kind of a gut feeling that's what it's meant for. Okay, so not waterproof. It also mentions about taking it from a hot environment to a cold environment, or vice versa, can cause condensation to form inside it. To be quite honest, that is a common problem with just about anything. I used to run mobile discos in the UK. I would move my equipment out of storage into a nice warm humid bar or club to do the disco, and the amplifiers would get condensation in them. I used to carry a heater around with me to actually get them up to temperature before I could even power it up. So that's a fairly standard thing. Wouldn't worry too much, just be aware of it. Nice to see this has a lithium battery. and the battery itself is changeable, and quite easily so. The battery is actually under the cover, so it clicks down, and this is plugged in, so we can actually replace the battery quite easily, and that is nice to see. Another thing I will mention with this is the screen is really quite large for a thermal camera. Okay, it's very easily visible. It also has like a recess in here, which I think will help to keep sunlight off from it a little bit. So we can take this outside actually during this video, but it looks like this might be quite visible outdoors. We'll have a look. Here are the specifications for the camera, so we'll just look at the main things. So the infrared resolution is 256 by 192. That is the same as most good quality thermal cameras. The various spectrums we expect to find, okay. You can see the temperature range there. Again, that's fairly standard, okay. It's a fixed focus. 25 hertz. Well, it says less than or equal to 25 hertz. Again, that is fairly common refresh rate for thermal camera. The visible camera resolution is higher, 640 by 480. We'll be playing around with this to see how well it overlays. Photo display mode. So we can display either thermal, visible, or they're both together overlaid on each other. Supports offline analysis on PC, okay. Export to PC. You can see the working time, the battery. So that's the basic specifications of the camera. We can also see we have a cursor in the center, so this is the center point temperature. It's also in the top corner where it maybe is a little bit easier to read, so we have that there. We have a highest temperature cursor. Okay. Lowest temperature. Oh, I can see. It's a bit hard to see on here, but it does actually give you the highest temperature, the lowest, and the center point on there. It shows you here maximum, minimum, and center point. Okay, so we have all that information available on the screen. We have the basic operation of the camera. So this is the little control panel on there. It seems fairly simple. So it's telling us that the right and left arrows switch between infrared, thermal, and visible light. And this is telling me basically when we overlay one on the other, yeah, so we can either have 0% to 100%, 25, 50, 75. Yeah, so this is like the opacity when you overlay the two images. We can have a quick play with that also, but it sounds fairly obvious. Up arrow will, yeah, we can display or hide the highest and lowest temperature column on there, for example. The photo capture and recording, that's done with the trigger on the front. So short press captures photos, and then we can use the cursors, we can store the photo and whatever. Press and hold on the trigger, we can record video, okay. This is just connecting to your computer to read photos. Works for everything from Windows XP up to Windows 10, probably Windows 11 as well, and the Apple system, okay. And then we go into the various menu options. This one actually is important. So this allows us to adjust the image when we overlay. This is the convergence where we get the two images in line with each other. It'll be interesting to see how well that works. When I played around with a similar camera before, if I moved greatly from a long distance to close up, I had to adjust it every time. We'll have a play. It's talking about emissivity. This is basically involving how reflective things are, which you put the camera at. I've noticed this before with electronics, that shiny things like the top of electrolytic capacitors appear to be hot when they're not. This is a common thing with all thermal cameras, so we can effectively change the settings here. to suit whatever we are working with. I would imagine, for example, if you're working on PCBs, once you've set it to the sort of setting you want once, it's probably fine. And finally, it talks about the software you use to analyze images on the PC. So this is quite simple from what I see. Basically, when you connect the thermal camera to the computer, it appears as a removable drive, and on there is an installation package folder. So we just go in there to install the software on the PC. Okay, and then we can open the package and select the picture to be analyzed. So it looks to me like you can't actually view directly from the thermal camera on the PC. You like to get a larger screen. This is for analyzing images that you've captured on the thermal camera itself. Again, we'll have a quick play with that, but it sounds quite simple. So that's all we need to do from the manual. Before I forget, let's go outside and just see what the screen brightness is like, and then let's have a look at a few PCBs and such like, see how well this works close up. Okay guys, so I am outdoors with the thermal camera. I have to say that the screen brightness really isn't very good. I mean, this is just a typical early May day here. Let me show you. So I'm just going to step into the shadow so we can look at the screen on the camera. It's really dark, isn't it?
I don't see anything.
I don't see anything.
Is this on?
It is on. Yeah, I can see people. Yeah, so I don't know if you can see that. I can see somebody sitting down there, but it really isn't very good for outdoor use. I would have thought for something that was for use on site, it would be better than that. Let's go outdoors with this. So, yeah, I don't know if you can even see that. I can see this car in front of me, which is at 34 degrees. I mean, this is a typical day in early May here. Something coming past, maybe we'll be able to see the vehicle. I didn't see it.
I didn't see anything.
So guys, I have to say that in sunlight, I mean, the sun is off to one side. If I face the sun is onto here, that's with the sun directly on. I can't see that much. I can just about see the writing. That's it. So, yeah.
I see loads of reflections.
Loads of reflections, nothing. So, guys, outdoors, isn't anything like a bit of sun. I mean, it's telling me the wall was 45 degrees centigrade. Okay, that's fairly normal because the sun is shining straight on it, but I have to say it failed that test. Okay, so we're now indoors. You can see the image there. This is just outside my office, so we can see people and such like. But again, I have to say that image is not very bright at all. I expected to find something more visible than that. Okay, if I'm close now, I can see this lovely lady. She looks beautiful in rainbow infrared. Okay, so that is just infrared. Now let's try the overlay. So that is the visible camera. Let me go again. Yeah, that's now showing infrared and visible mixed together.
I still have loads of reflections
mixed
here.
together. Yeah, it's not.
And now the infrared kicks in really.
Yeah,
really with that hot.
Oh, I can see the hot drink. That coffee is at 35 degrees. I suggest you asking for a warm one. Above the ambient temperature outside at least. So 53. Okay guys, so we have to say, I mean, possibly we're trying to film one camera with another camera, which is not the best of ideas, but it does seem to have a very dark image just in normal daylight. Okay, back in the workshop, I can see this quite clearly. So I have the visible and the thermal image. I think this is probably just on visible at the moment. You can see the temperature of my finger. Okay, let's just go to another setting. So this is now mixing. Now I'm sure you can see now that the two images, the visible image and the thermal image of my hand, are nowhere near aligned with each other. So there's a setting for this. Let's try it. Okay, so for the image alignment or convergence between the visible and infrared image, We just press the menu button to get to this menu, and then the first option is image correction. We press enter. Now we can see like a left, right, up and down. So there's my hand. Let's try it. So yeah, I can see the two images get a bit closer. Okay. But as much as I try, I can't seem to align the two. Let me just put something a bit warm on the desk. Just my soldering iron, okay? So we can see there the soldering iron. And the thermal image is nowhere near to it. So this is the thermal image, this is the optical image. Okay. Yeah, you can see I can alter the balance between the two. Okay, they're both probably about the same brightness there. Now let's try again. So menu, image correction, enter. Let's see if we can get these two images to line up. Well, I have to say, I really can't. I think that's because the infrared lens and the optical lens are too far apart. So when I'm trying to look at something close like that, I just can't align them. Guys, I've come back out of the office again. If we can see the screen, so I'm now looking at much more distant objects. I'm looking at the windows, which are about 3-4 meters away from me. And now I can align the image, so the alignment between the optical and the thermal image works okay for distant objects, but something on my desk, it just won't align. It seems just to be too far out of its range. Now I've put the screen brightness to full on the thermal camera now, so once again, let's try outdoors. This is on high brightness, and let's have a look to see if we can see the screen. So I'm now outdoors. And once again, I mean, it probably doesn't come out brilliant on the camera, but I can't see that. Just about. So, even on high brightness on the thermal camera, I still have the same problem. Okay, so I have a motherboard. Let's have a look at this. I'll turn off the overlay because I can't get the two to coincide. You can see with more distant objects I can. I'm now holding the camera about 20 centimeters from the board, which is where you would probably normally hold a thermal camera for electronic work. So let's just switch off the overlay. I think that is just visible. And that is just thermal. Okay, switch on the motherboard because it's off. The reflection, that's from my overhead lighting. If you watch the channel regularly, you know we get this a lot, so that's nothing particularly unusual to this thermal camera. Okay, let's have a look. So I have something there. It's about 45, 47 degrees. I'll just zoom in on the overhead camera, you can see a little bit better. So yeah, we can see it. Okay. Again, we can see we don't get like a sharp focus on this. Obviously, I've used some thermal cameras with macro lenses. They are much more suited to this type of work. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to get out of this thermal camera looking at this motherboard. Taking a look at the Kaiweets website, and this camera is also available on Amazon, AliExpress. I'll give you the links in the video description, but I'll just let you know what I actually think about this camera, having been playing around with it a little bit. I've tried it. So just looking at the website, it's fairly obvious, and I did think this was probably the case originally, that this camera is more intended for field use and intended in particular for more long range use. We can see air conditioners, air vents, things in buildings, this sort of thing. So it's clear this is the intended use for this camera: repair of cars, electrical installations, boiler inspections, house maintenance, air conditioning inspection. That's what this is meant to be used for. Just from the design of the unit, I was convinced that is the case. So probably the uses I'm trying, which is close-up work on PCBs in particular, are not really what this was intended to do. We see the price here, and there are some discount codes in the video description. If this is the sort of work you do, I think it's worth having a look, with one proviso, and I will have to mention again. If you're using this for indoor work, it's fine. But outdoor work, from what I have found, I can't see the screen, even on full brightness. I can't see anything meaningful on the screen. You've seen that in this video. Now, the weather conditions here, that is nothing unusual. I mean, to be quite honest, it's pretty much always sunny here. Probably 360 days out of a year, it's sunny here. And the days it's not sunny, well, it isn't cloudy all day, it's sunny at times, yeah. So maybe, depending on your location, you live somewhere that is rather less bright, shall we say, in which case you wouldn't have that problem. But from what I found, it really isn't suited to outdoor use in daylight. Well, shall we say sunlight, because it is sunny here. Okay, so guys, that's an honest review of this one. I've reviewed Kaiweets products before, and I've had some very good products. I expect this actually is a good product. It just isn't really intended for the use to which I would normally put it on this channel. Anyway, get into the comments below. Let me have your thoughts about that. See what you think. Maybe you have one of these, in which case please let us know what you use it for and how well it works in that situation. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you all soon on Learning Electronics Repair. Ciao for now, guys.